Bonjour à tous et bienvenue sur ma chaîne, j'espère que vous allez bien. Comme vous pouvez le constater, je suis de retour chez moi. Je ne suis plus à Paris. J'ai passé un moment incroyable à Paris et j'ai adoré vous emmener avec moi. Merci beaucoup pour votre soutien et l'amour que vous avez montré sur ces vidéos. As you guys can tell by the title of this video and the fact that I just started it in French, today I'm going to tell you how I learned French and also how you can do it too. And I'm gonna be honest, I think I'm gonna give you a realistic look of what it takes to learn a language. And yeah, I'm just gonna give you everything I know about language learning. If you want to learn French, doesn't matter if you are a complete beginner or if you already have the basics, I think that this is going to be helpful for you because I'm going to give super practical and realistic and also fun ways to learn a language. So I wanted to start with a little background story on my French journey. I kind of decided to learn French about 4 years ago, but it didn't start there for me. My French journey started when I went to high school. If you didn't know, I am Dutch. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. The first 3 years, French is mandatory. We also have English as a language, and then the second year and the third year, we also have German as a language. And then on year 3, you have to decide if you are gonna continue for the following years with German or French. I was never particularly good at languages. You know, there are people who are just naturals when it comes to learning a language. I feel like I was not one of them. However, my French teachers did tell me that I had a good French accent. I didn't have the nicest German teachers, so when I had to make a decision, obviously I picked French because we used to go on holidays to France when I was younger. I just feel more connected to the French culture too, so I was like, that's an easy pick, I'm gonna go for French. So I had French for 2 more years, so 5 years in total in high school. I learned the basics, high school French. I went to do my bachelor's and I dropped language learning. I forgot most of it the years that followed. I decided to go to Liège for my Erasmus. I picked Liège because I wanted a French speaking country, or like a French speaking city. I remembered some things from high school, but still my French was like so basic. I could go to the supermarket and I could order in a restaurant, but that was pretty much it. Fast forward to 2020 when all of us were at home baking banana bread, I actually decided like, okay, I want to really do this. I want to learn French. I want to be able to hold a conversation, stop being at this like high school basic level French. I want to take this to the next level. I did self-study for the first year or so. And then I actually came across Lingoda, which is an online language school. If you've been following me for longer, you've probably heard me talk about them. Yeah, they have been such a huge part of my language learning and my French learning. Yeah, that's kind of my background with French. I had 5 years of French in high school. While going to uni, I forgot most of it. Eventually, I made the decision, no, I really want to do this. So now that I've told you my background, let's get into how you can actually learn French, or at least how I did it. Basically, when you structure language learning, I feel like there are 5 components. You have listening, reading, writing, speaking, and grammar. So it doesn't really matter what your level is. I feel like these are the 5 components that you can split up language learning in. So for me, the grammar is something I learned in high school. It's still somewhere, so that wasn't really my main focus. Writing is difficult, so that was definitely something that I needed to improve. Listening, I can follow conversations pretty well. The same goes for reading if I take my time, but my biggest problem was speaking. The biggest issue was confidence. You know, my self-studying, I was pretty good at the other elements, except for writing, but speaking, I was too afraid to do it. And I feel like that's really where I hit a wall with my language learning. I didn't practice it in real life and in conversation. So yeah, those are the 5 elements, and I am now gonna tell you how I practiced all of those. And I'm gonna share some tools that you can use to practice each of these so you can really decide for yourself what are elements that I really want to practice. If you are a complete beginner, obviously you have to practice all of those. If you already have a basic understanding of French, maybe there's a specific element that you want to focus on. I'm just gonna share all of the things that I used, from books to music, podcasts, TV shows, classes, everything. I'm gonna share everything. So it's a lot. Let's get into it. So as I mentioned, I kind of hit a wall after doing some self-studying, and I felt like I wasn't really making that much progress anymore. I feel like with language learning, it is so important to stay consistent. And I think that was my biggest issue when I did self-studying. I would make an effort every now and then, but after some time I kind of forgot about it. It was never really a priority, and I feel like with Lingoda I really learned to become consistent. You can decide whether you want group classes or one-on-one classes. The group classes are only with 5 other people, so 6 in total, and then your teacher. I was so afraid at first with talking in French with other people, but somehow I always felt super comfortable. I had so many different teachers because you can book a class at any time during the day. Therefore, I had so many different teachers. They always made me feel comfortable, and it really helped me so much becoming more confident and being more comfortable with actually speaking French. Also because you get access to the class materials before, so I go over the course materials, the class materials. So I already kind of know what the topic is. You can already practice the vocabulary of the class, so it makes it a lot easier to follow. They make sure that everyone speaks during class, so there's no way getting out of it. And yeah, that definitely at first I thought that was so scary, but I got used to it. And like I mentioned, consistency is so important with language learning, and Lingoda actually has the best way to help you get consistent because they offer sprint challenges. You take either 30 or 60 classes in 60 days, and after completing it, you will get a 50% cashback or extra class credit. Yeah, I have a French class in 30 minutes, so I'm gonna go over the class materials now. So Lingoda is now actually offering an amazing summer deal. If you use my link, which I will put up on the screen and in the description for you guys, and sign up for the Lingoda Sprint Challenge before the 1st of July, you can not only get 128 euros off with the sign up, but after successfully finishing the sprint with the cashback, your total savings can be as high as 515 euros. Honestly guys, it is the perfect way to not only kickstart your language learning, but also improve and get into the flow of consistently learning a language. It has helped me so much, and I just know that it will help you so much too. So I will leave everything in the description for you guys. So next I want to talk about reading and books. I think that one of the best ways to improve your vocabulary is by reading. I love to read, so this is definitely one of my favorite parts of language learning. But it is definitely challenging because if you learn a language, obviously you learn to say like, I am Iris. That's the French that you learn when you learn a language. It's not the French that you will find in the book, obviously. So I think it's a really good way to improve your vocabulary, but it's also difficult. You need to be patient to learn. Or at least I had to be patient to read in French. So actually what I did to start getting into reading in French is, you guys know this, I love Harry Potter so much. I read the books, I saw the movies 100 times. I know the story by heart. So what I did is I bought the books in French, and I started with the first one. I know this story, I know the characters, so I know everything that's in this book. In English, in Dutch, that made it so much easier to read in French too. So this is probably my biggest tip. Find your favorite book, something like a story that you know. This is also a child's book, so it's not that hard. So I definitely recommend finding a book that you love, something maybe you read when you were younger, and find the French version of it. Be patient too, and look up the words that you don't understand. Have your phone next to it or your laptop and look up, like mark the words that you don't know, mark sentences that you find interesting. Yeah, I really love this. Actually, when I was in Paris, I was reading The Years by Annie Ernaux, but I was reading it in English, and Annie Ernaux is French. And in The Years, she talks about her life through memories, pictures, music, kind of thoughts. And it's a very interesting way, like the writing style is very interesting. And I was reading it in a bar. Someone who worked there came up to me and she was like, oh, can I see it? Because she was French, obviously, and she wanted to see the book in English. And she said, have you tried reading it in French? And I said, well, I'm not sure if my French is good enough to read it. And she actually said, no, I think it's great because it's very descriptive. You know, she describes photos. So it's actually like, she thought it would be a really like good way to learn French and to practice reading French. And I was like, that's actually very smart. But I have this book first that I need to finish. I bought this so long ago, but I still haven't finished it. And then I'm probably gonna buy The Years by Annie Ernaux in French. So next I want to talk about TV shows and movies. I have found this so helpful, but also just really entertaining. I really love to watch French reality TV shows. I love reality TV in general, and one of my favorite shows on Netflix to watch in French is The Circle. I also really loved Lupin and Coeur, and I usually watch these movies and TV shows with French subtitles, so you're not only practicing your listening skills but also your reading skills. If you are still a beginner, then I would suggest using the subtitles of your native language or English. So I will put a list in the description with my favorite TV shows and movies to watch in French for you guys. Okay, moving on to podcasts and music. I go for so many walks and runs. I love to go for a long walk or a run, and I either listen to a podcast or music. I have found a couple of podcasts that I really enjoy, and I am gonna share them with you guys. The first one that I really love is Little Talk in Slow French. Her name is Nagisa. I think she lives in Paris. So basically she talks about different topics in super slow French. It is super easy to follow, and when it gets a bit more difficult, she explains what she's talking about. She talks about like day-to-day stuff. The topics that she talks about I find very interesting. She's talking about environmental issues and like politics, but also Paris, traveling in France, like super interesting. I really love this. I've listened to all of her episodes, and in the end she actually does a recap of the episode and she talks at like full speed, which is fast. If you've heard French people talk, you know it's fast. So I really like that one. Another one that I really love is Coffee Break in French. They are super short episodes. Let's see, Coffee Break in French. Yeah, super short episodes, like around 13 minutes. And they are perfect because it's called Coffee Break in French. You can just, if you're having a break from work or studying, or if you're in the bus or sitting on a train, if you need to drive somewhere, these episodes are perfect. And if you are a bit more advanced, I also really like, what's her name? Camille's Hotline. It's just a really fun podcast, like from a French girl. But that's just like full speed French. It's not, this is definitely when you are a bit more advanced. Another thing that I love to do is listen to French music. I actually created a Spotify playlist. It's called Coucou. And I put all of my favorite French songs in there. When I find a song in French, I listen to it, and Spotify has the option to have like the lyrics sometimes on the bottom. So I listen to the music, I read the lyrics, and if I don't understand what they are talking about or like what they're singing about, I look it up and I try to understand like the whole song basically. And then every time I listen to the song, I try to sing along like in my mind. I'm a terrible singer, so I try to follow along with the song, and then I know what they're talking about. It's a great way to improve your vocabulary, but also like French music is good. So I will link, just in general, I will link everything that I'm talking about in the description. Maybe I said this already, but I'm gonna put everything in the description. I will also link this playlist. Next, something I do that is kind of weird, but I love it, it works for me, is I text myself in French. It's kind of weird texting yourself, but during the day, sometimes when I see something or I have my thoughts, like random thoughts, I try to translate them to French. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to say this. I look it up and then I text myself this sentence. Or sometimes when I text my boyfriend something or my friend something, I will translate it to French and I text it myself just to get used to writing and forming sentences in French. It's super weird, but it's kind of funny, and sometimes I look back to these chats that I have with myself. Yeah, I don't know if this works for you. It kind of works for me, so it's just a fun little thing that I like to do. Moving on to my final tip, and that is surround yourself with French-speaking people. I've noticed that, you know, my time in Paris, just being surrounded by the language 24/7 is what helped me the absolute most. Forcing yourself to speak. Try to get confident with speaking. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Also, like, French people get a bad rep. They really appreciate it when you try to speak French, and sometimes they might answer in English, but like, I do this too. When people talk to me in Dutch, I switch to English too if I notice that they're not native Dutch speakers. I try not to do this because I do realize now that they are probably trying to learn Dutch. And I feel like it's the same with French people. They do appreciate it when you try to order things in French or ask things in French or respond to them in French. Even if you make mistakes, that's okay. It's really normal to make mistakes. And they will usually help you. I had the sweetest interaction with people while I was in Paris because they noticed that I was trying. If it's available for you, I highly recommend try it in real life and really try to get a bit more confident. I feel like this is what helped me the most. As I mentioned before, my language classes with Lingoda, they forced me to start talking and get more comfortable and confident in speaking French, and ultimately that's what helped me improve the most. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's very different from what I usually do. I never really do sit down videos and like in-depth videos like this, but I really hope you find it useful in any sort of way. If you have any tips for anyone who's watching this, if you have any tips for me, please leave them in the comments for me. Music, artist, books, movies, anything, any French sources. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, next week I will be back with a normal vlog. Also, don't forget to sign up for the Lingoda summer sprint before the 1st of July if you want to make use of that amazing offer. Yeah, thanks for being here. I love you guys. I hope you have an amazing week and we'll see each other next week.